one of the really powerful combined drivers is the distribution channel coupled with your endorsement. If Harv believed somebody and told his distribution channel, you, that somebody really could benefit your life or your business or your wealth, and you believed Harv, you probably would buy or at least avail yourself of sampling that person's wares. Well, there's so many people out here in business that have not only a distribution channel, but they have the trust, they have the credibility, they have the respect of an affinity group, whether it's your clients, whether it's an industry, and that can be such a valuable, valuable, valuable upside lever tool when you understand how to use it. Products and services. You want to know the easiest way to grow your business? Basically, one of the easiest ways, add more products or markets. It's really simple. Add more products or markets. Most people are limited. I mean, I've made more money by going out and finding other products or services that complemented what my clients currently sold, making deals where we took over the lion's share of the profit. We either private labeled, got exclusive distribution, or just basically packaged it in with our stuff and added it to what we sold. And we would maybe double or triple the average unit of sale because we realized something that most people in this room probably haven't, and that is that there is it's called a cycle of life. People who buy a certain product or service generically normally buy other complementary products or services before, during, and after they buy that. And all those products or services combined really make whatever their goal is more successful, more powerful. If you can be the person to connect the dots in your mind, source and acquire the products or services, whether you own them or you just represent them or you just joint venture, you can make more money from things you don't control than things you do. Processes and procedures. I explained to you that when we look at your business, which we'll do in a minute, and we see all the different ways you're currently, or the one way or the no way you're currently generating revenue, we can probably identify numerous, if not infinite, higher performing, more powerful, profitable, predictable processes or services that can work. We can also look within your industry or look within the category or look within your company and find other people or entities that have figured higher performing ways to do the processes you're involved in. If you're, for example, in lead generating, maybe your idea of lead generating is running radio advertising or direct mail or trade shows or joint ventures with other people, but probably not all of the four and probably maybe none of those four. And we can help you, and I'll help you today, figure out which one or ones might be better and how to compare it. I'll teach you how to test and how to measure. Ideology, the whole philosophy that you live your life by. And I'm going to change your ideology for time immortal. I'm going to change it so profoundly and dramatically in about 20. It's not trying to teach you. It's coming up and it's going to change everything you do in your thinking and your action and your transactions with everybody that you either are paid by or that you pay. Okay, we talked about these 9 drivers. Change any one of it makes a huge difference. Work on strategically and systematically, and those 2 words are very critical. Change all of them, and again, it's impossible. I'm going to give you like 12 different ways it's impossible not to grow your enterprise geometrically. All you got to do is apply it continuously, attentively, passionately, purposefully, and properly. In order to do all the things I'm teaching, or at least my wish for you, see, I have a very simple, I had nothing I didn't say. Why am I up here and why do I do what I do? Because I believe most people in business unintentionally limit and restrict the number of clients they can attract, the amount of business they can do with each of those clients, the frequency of business they can do, and the total impact they can have in those clients' lives or businesses because they don't know how much more is possible for the same effort, from the same activity, from the same person, from the same opportunity. So I want you to practice from today forward optimization. Optimization is nothing more than committing to get the maximum result from the minimum time, the minimum effort, the minimum expense, the minimum human capital. Is anybody here involved in commercial real estate? 1 person, 2 people? Gentlemen? And I'm going to presume that where we are and across the street, this is prime property in, I guess, are we in downtown Vancouver? So if across the street where I'm staying, there wasn't the Fairmont. If instead there was a vacant lot and on that lot was a 2-bedroom, beat up, run down, paint dilapidated, 600 square foot or whatever it converts to in meters here, house, and we wanted to buy that, and we brought in a commercial real estate appraiser, would he or she say, well, that's only worth, $87,000 because it's a beat up 600 or so square meter house on a dilapidated lot? Or would they value it at its highest and best use? Those of you who can't see the commercial real estate, they're saying highest and best. That's what they do. They would value it as to what it would be worth if used at its highest and best use, either as another hotel, as another convention center, as a shopping facility, as a high-rise office building. You've got to start looking at your business life in terms of the same thing. If you're going to optimize, you got to look at the highest and best use of everything you do, and you got to look strategically of having everything connect and always be advancing what your big overarching goal is down the pike. There's got to be an end. You got to start with the end in mind. I don't mean when you die or when you retire, but when you get to this big vision. If you don't have this big vision and you can't reverse engineer, you'll never get there. Anybody here, either a consultant or by day or in your previous job, was a programmer? Okay, well, do you know you start with the end in mind, don't you? And not just the end figuratively, but you literally want to know what's it got to do? What's it going to look like? And I tell people this because so many people say, man, I want to make $1 million. And I'll say, okay, well, let's look at where you are now. And they'll be in a business, a one-person or two-person business, and they're doing, let's call it $70,000. And I'll say, okay, well, if you don't change the strategy you're following, you're making 70 right now, and that's calling on 12 people a day and closing one and getting a unit of sale of $200 and getting these people to buy one time and never buying again. To go from that 70,000 to the $1 million you want, if you're going to do it yourself, you're going to have to figure a way to call on whatever the multiple of 70 is to $1 million. 12 times more people a day. You're going to have to get, and you're going to have so much more capital. And I extrapolate all the implications that they've never thought about. And I said, but you could do a lot of things. If you closed 3 times as many people, if you brought 3 people on to do the same thing and you taught them what you learned, the processes, if you figured out when you sold them how to get them programmed to buying every quarter instead of once and never buying again, if you had 12 more things to sell them that maybe weren't yours, all of a sudden your 70 might go to 600 and then you could keep improving from there. Does that make sense to you all? I'm trying to go fast, but I'm trying to liberate your thinking and animate your sense of what's possible. And you'll keep me aware of the time.
You're doing well. You're doing well.
I don't do short. This is not what I normally do, so bear with me and be tolerant.
Does everybody get this?
Yeah, if I'm being too abstract, stop me. Because I'm going to build, but I got to layer it because most people say, here's the 7 things to do. I can do that. And then you'll go out and you do 7 things and I'll make you 25,000 or 50 grand and you'll get a great payoff for coming to Harv's thing and you'll go right back. But if I teach you, it's like the old adage about how to fish. If I teach you a new way of looking at your relationship with your business, current or any business that you either acquire, grow, and you'll want to acquire and grow other ones because this is so universal. As I said, I got 10,000 success stories and it just translates and translates. This is going to be a transformational couple of hours. In order to practice optimization, actually there's a slide that should be there ahead of time. You got to first recognize, you got to identify and then examine the higher and superior performing options, opportunities, and alternatives available to you because it's the only way you're going to get leverage. You cannot do that by being internally focused. You cannot do that. You have to move from funnel vision to tunnel vision. And tunnel vision is the practice of traveling outside your, first of all, business, preferably outside your industry, and borrowing the breakthroughs, the success approaches, and the higher performing processes that other industries or other variations of your industry have consciously or unconsciously uncovered, perfected, and built. Now, a very simple, again, some of these are good metaphors to think about. An approach that is common as dirt in one industry can have the power, the impact, the profitability, the preemptiveness, meaning it can block any other competitor from ever having access to the market, and the preeminence, meaning that it could extol you and your business or product or service on a pedestal of being greater and more renowned and revered in the hearts and the minds and the pocketbooks of your client and your prospective market than anything if you are the first or the only one to translate it and apply it to your industry. That's why I want to get you to move into tunnel vision or to funnel vision. I'll give it to you in a very quick way. Well, actually, I will. I'm very close. I'm very close. And if it's inadequate, I'll come back and ask you. I got this thing planned. I'll forget it. I'll go, and I'll have to start all over from the beginning because I got a very bad memory. You know, and we'll be here till. Did you ever see the movie Groundhog Day? We'll be doing it over and over and over again because I'm actually so nonlinear. I can't remember what I talked about. Okay, I already talked about this anyhow. So the trick here is you got to resign and commit that you're going to engineer breakthroughs, and the greatest breakthroughs always emanate from outside your current situation. Okay, here's some examples. See, you're ahead of me. Federal Express would not be here if Fred Smith hadn't borrowed the hub and spoke check clearing concept from the U.S. Federal Reserve Bank and translated it to shipping. Because before that, everything had to go a circuitous route and it would take forever. And he figured out how to really fast track everything at centralized hubs, and he borrowed the success process. Roll-on deodorant wouldn't be here if somebody didn't borrow the success process from the ballpoint pen, Parker T-ball jotter. Serious, because they had figured out a process for consistently applying a liquid without having it all fall, and it had pressure so it didn't all fall out of the tube. Fiber optics wouldn't be here in telecommunication if you'd left it to telecommunication to uncover because it came from aerospace. Minoxidil Rogaine wouldn't be here for hair loss if you'd left it to what it was created because it was an acne treatment. They just happened to see that they got rid of their pimples, but they grew hair out of their face. But you got to be open to making those connections. Now, is that adequate, or do you need? Is that big? Okay, good. Thank you. Okay, so now I'm going to give you your marching orders about your business. This is how I go in. If you were to engage me and pay me a huge fee, and I were to come in and start working with you in your business, short or long term, here's the first thing I would do. I'd say, this is J. Abraham 101 to great business growth. You maximize what you're currently doing, and the reason you do that is that's where you get the leverage. You can generate tons more revenue, profit, cash flow to fund other things. You can't maximize what you're currently doing until you first identify all the performance of all the processes and figure out what they are, the drivers. Number two, measure and know how they're doing. Number three, figure out who else outside of your field has basically a better idea. Just look within. You get a piece of paper and you say, okay, here's my current business. Here's all the things we are doing or all the things that are going on. For example, we run ads. Those ads generate, first of all, the ads have leverage. Most people run ads, don't even have a headline. A headline is the ad for the ad. Change a headline, they'll change, I think I told you earlier, 21 times potentially. Almost always you'll get an improvement of 20, 30, 50, 100, 300%. Almost nobody realizes the composition of an ad, and if I have time later today, I'll go through what an ad should be like. But figure out all the things you do that have upside leverage. You run ads, they bring phone calls, they bring visitors, people come in. Do we caption? What do we say to them? I had a client one time, we tripled the business of a very large furniture store. They were doing about $22 million in the store. We tripled their business over a couple of years just by one small thing. We analyzed and tested, I guess I'll get ahead and tell you a little bit about testing in a minute, the different ways people were greeted when they walked in the front door. And one approach, one phraseology, one uttered cluster of words had 300%, 3 times greater probability of closure than anyone else. Now, what would you imagine it is? You want to throw some out? That wasn't it. You'll never visit. It's this. And what ad brought you in the store today? But unless you test, now I'm going to give you testing 101 because I wasn't going to do it till later, but I will. The most powerful, the most scientific. You want to turn yourself into a marketing genie overnight, instantly, with a click? Okay, all you got to do is learn testing 101. Everything you do that is a revenue generator can be tested, can be measured. It's sort of Deming 101, can be improved. And you can test a lot of things. The first thing you test is the headline or the equivalent of the headline. And let me tell you what that means. Whether you sell by running an ad, sending out a letter, having an ad in a yellow pages, getting people to call you, calling on people, calling for appointments, knocking on doors cold and trying to get in somebody's door, going to trade shows, or anything in between, the first cluster of words that either you say or people see is the equivalent of a headline. It's the first phrase that is uttered when you call somebody. It's the first phrase people, it's the topic part of an email. It's the first phrase after it. It's the first sentence or group of sentence in a letter. It's the first thing they say when they call your order department. It's the first thing that's said when they walk in the door. Different approaches to that will impact positively or negative your result, as I said, up to 2,100%. That's 21 times.